You are tuned in to Kids
In the pit!
Okay. Hey guys, it's Gabe from Skin of the Pit podcast. Today I'm joined by Tony Weinbender. I forgot it. Weinbender, the man behind Fest. Thanks so much for joining me.
No worries, Gabe. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. So I met you briefly at Fest this year. But I mean that's probably the busiest weekend of the year for you, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you got like what? How many bands? Like,
I didn't really get a final count last year, but usually we book around 350 bands. And then, we
yeah,
also do fest wrestling, and then we also book comedians.
yeah,
So it's a lot of moving parts with, all the venues and the bands and, attendees and staff. It's kind of a big undertaking.
I don't think I know 350 bands. I mean, in total, I probably do know about just about 350, but
Well, that's kind of the beauty of Fest. We kind of make
yeah,
it kind of like a punk rock buffet for you. So it's a good
yeah,
opportunity for people to learn about a lot of new bands that could be,
yeah,
the next big band play the main stage in a couple of years. Who knows?
yeah. Um, you, I mean, did you get to watch like many bands this year?
I actually did get to watch more than I usually do. After doing it for 22 years, I have a really, really good team of friends that work Fest for me. A lot of them are repeats. So, they've done the same job for year after year after year. So everybody kind of gelled. We all thought that this year was the smoothest as far as logistical goes.
Yeah,
So everything ran well. So there wasn't a whole lot of like emergencies that I had to deal with or as many questions as usually I have to answer. So yeah, I was able to enjoy it. I mean, at heart, I'm a huge music nerd, and you know, punk rock has been something I've been involved with since I was 13, and I'm 49 now.
wow.
So,
Yes,
it's been a long time. So I still love, and I curate the whole festival too. So I pick all the bands. So it's kind of like I kind of punish myself because I book more than I can see. And then also when I make the schedule, I don't really do a linear schedule. So I really don't see who's playing against who until the schedule's posted on the internet, really. So
yeah,
sometimes I'm like, oh, damn, I put these two bands I really like against each other. But that's kind of the fun of it too.
yeah. Did you have like a favorite set?
Hmm, that's a hard one. This year,
Yeah.
um, I don't know. Honestly, I think the Matt and Kim set closing out Sunday night was the most enjoyable for me.
Who was?
Matt and Kim,
Oh
they
wait,
closed
was
out
there?
Bo Diddley on Sunday night, and they
Ew,
hadn't played Fest since I think Fest 5, and they were
wow.
just as fun as they were back then. So.
Yeah, I think I saw like a video of them on Fest or something. On like Fest Instagram. And
Mhm.
I think wasn't it
Yeah.
like just a keyboardist and like a keyboardist slash singer and a drummer?
And the keyboardist
Okay.
also does like backbeats and stuff like that. But they have a
Okay.
lot of antics, like, they had a lot of like stuff they were throwing off stage, like giant inflatable balls, and they had a ton of balloons, and they had inflatable uh, other things they were throwing out. But they're just like a fun party, and it's been a really, like I was saying, it's been a really long time. So it was kind of fun to have them back after this many years. When they first played Fest, they were really, really small band, and so
Yeah.
now they've transcended, and their other band PG-14 also played. So that's their new band, and it's still
Nice.
just the two of them. So,
Do you have like a favorite set you've ever seen from all fests?
mm, that's a hard one. I don't know. There's so many. I mean, 22 years. There's been lots of crazy fun times. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think the first year we had Descendants was pretty epic for a lot of us because that was kind of like the first year we used the park downtown, and the first year we used Bo Diddley, the park. So it was like the first time Fest kind of grew significantly. And that was kind of one of the reasons why we asked the city if we could do that and block off the streets and use that park, was because we really wanted Descendants. Prior to that, our biggest venue was like I think 1,200 capacity. And so it wouldn't be fair to have the Descendants there and not everybody could go in and see them. So that for us, I think there was a big milestone and a big marker. The year Against Me played 2 nights and played 4 albums. That was really awesome too. To have them just own it and just rule the fest that weekend.
Yeah.
There's
I
been some
I
classic old Municipal Waste sets from way back in the day that were really fun. I
yeah.
know you're buds with them. Yeah, way back in the day, Tony used to do more antics and fun stuff. He still does. Like this year, he threw a trash can into the crowd and he wasn't even playing.
Yeah.
So,
Dopamine.
Wait, what?
It was with dopamines.
He did?
yeah,
You knew about that.
No.
He played with he sang with dopamines and threw a trash can.
I didn't
Yeah,
know.
I thought you knew
yeah,
that. We didn't watch him.
Wait,
that's
what?
classic weird Foresta fun. That was an old move he used to do. So I'm glad he
They
brought it
played
back
2
for
sets.
Fest.
We only watched one.
Wait, what was the second one?
We watched them one, but we didn't watch the other set.
What was the other?
I don't know.
Wait, was it on Sunday?
No.
Dopamines play the backyard at Boca Fiesta.
We saw that one. But
That
what
was
was
the second one. The other one was at Vivid on Friday night.
That's the one. with
Okay.
Municipal Waves. We must have been preoccupied with another set.
Wait,
Might have been
Vivid?
playing then.
Vivid's
Maybe.
Vivid's the one where Flatliners played that's not votedly, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Cool. Guar was pretty fun last year.
Yeah, that was a big thing. I grew up in Virginia, so when I was younger, I saw Guar a lot. I'd go to Richmond and see them play, and so to think that my like 16-year-old self was seeing a band that I would book, you know, this many years later, 20 some years later is pretty fun. So actually, shit, 30 years later.
Yeah. I actually got the new singer. What's his name? Then what's his?
Mike's, but I don't know this. I forget.
Yeah,
Lothar.
Lothar the Berserker. Yeah,
Mhm.
he was actually on the podcast, so that was really
Oh,
cool.
fun.
Yeah.
Actually, that was a wild time.
Yeah,
It was hilarious.
yeah. He said like he was trying to be like very like cautious with what he said, so he said like wiener and hoo ha.
Great.
Yeah, instead of,
He's
I'll
a
try to
grandpa.
work in a
He-
hoo-ha or a wiener in my stories.
he's a grandpa, so it's funny.
You're watching us now.
Yeah.
I wonder if his like grandkids have ever seen War live.
I mean, depending on how old they are.
Yeah, I think there might be
Yeah.
little.
Yeah,
There was a lot of kids at Guar last year during Fest.
yeah.
It was fun to see families bring out their kids to see that. A lot of my
Yeah.
friends did.
He was in the front. We were in the back.
I was completely soaked in like blood and other
Yeah,
substances.
That was how I was when I was 16 and we would drive to Richmond and I wouldn't tell my mom what I was doing.
Yeah, it was chaotic, but it was fun.
Yeah, I got a picture of me covered in the blood holding a poster for an upcoming Fugazi show. And I had like a blonde mohawk. And
Oh wow.
it looked more like a treasure troll than it did a mohawk, but it was all dyed, not red because it kind of turned pink when it got on me. But yeah, it was fun. I think we stayed at the Avail House after that too.
Wait, the Avail House is in because they're from Richmond, right?
Yeah, it's not around anymore. It's just, but there used to be a house called the Avail House and they all lived there in the 90s.
I
And sometimes
I
they
heard-
would stay in their house and stuff like that. So it was nice.
You know those like little like mini like one or I don't know, it's 1 or 2 days. The little fests that they throw in Richmond at that little
Over
place.
the James.
Over the James Fest.
Yeah. Yeah, I went not this past year, but the year before, the one that strike.
Yeah.
We did that.
I was there too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they said some sort of thing about like a time capsule or something that was in someone's house in Richmond.
Oh, probably, yeah.
I heard them, I don't know, maybe I'm remembering wrong, but I heard them say, well, maybe someone moved into the Avail house and I think they said something about like some sort of time capsule in an attic. So someone,
Maybe they hid something in the house. Yeah, it might have been true.
so someone might find that. They
Well,
live
and
there.
Richmond is full of a great, punk music history, but also you got to remember almost all those people are art school dropouts. So that's kind of one of the cool things about the Richmond music scene.
Yeah.
It's really kind of weird and different. Things like Guar and stuff, and bands like Men's Recovery Project and all this old crazy weird stuff that came out in the 90s.
We're going to Richmond for the 2 municipal waste shows in April. Wait, are we going
Oh
to?
yeah, Tony's putting on a fun thing. I just saw
They're
that
back to back.
announced.
Yeah, wow, it's gonna be crazy.
Yeah, yeah, it should be fun. I'm glad he's doing that. I'm glad he's getting his feet wet in that world.
Yeah, you know how, so you know how Lou from Sick of It All unfortunately has cancer, right?
I did not know that. That's sad to hear.
Oh wow. He's recovering well, but they did like a benefit show. It was, I think it was November 23rd or 24th, something like that.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, they did a benefit show with a bunch of bands. And Municipal Waste played, and Tony let me sing part of Grave Dive.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Cool.
Yeah. And so this year was like my third fest that I've ever attended, but it was also my first one playing with Thought
Hmm.
Control. So yeah, that's the band I play with, playing with my dad.
How'd it go?
Yeah. I mean, it was awesome.
Cool.
Thanks so much for putting us on.
No problem. Thanks for not
Yeah.
sucking.
Yeah. I mean,
You guys were good. It was a good
Okay.
one.
I mean, we played a few songs a few times because our set was like 12 minutes and we had a 30-minute time slot.
Oh, yeah,
So yeah, I think
They played like 10 songs twice.
yeah, we played
that's
like,
good.
I think our whole set is like 15 songs in 12 minutes, which I don't even know how we do that. But I don't know if it's 15, but like 10 or something like that. And we played like at least half our set twice.
There you go. I
Yeah, we
mean,
kind of, I mean, I can kind of say we could do we did two sets kind of in one set. That's
yeah.
yeah.
So it's almost like you played twice.
Yeah. So was I like one of the youngest people to play Fest ever?
I don't know. How old are you, Gabe? 13?
13. I was 12 when I played though.
I mean, in my knowledge, probably. I know we had this year also a local band called Boat Stuff played,
Oh
and I
yeah, I
think
think I heard
some of
about
those
them.
kids are still like seniors in high school. I think some of them just graduated.
Nice.
So that was cool. I'm not really not sure because like I don't really ask the age when people play, and it's with 350 bands, it's hard to like know all that.
Yeah,
But yeah, I would probably guess. I mean, sure. We'll say it then till someone
probably.
proves it wrong.
Yeah, well, maybe, but
Yeah.
if so, cool.
I
If
mean, I'm
not,
sure that it's
so
some
cool.
to be like an official member of a band, probably yes. I'm sure there's somebody that has been, pulled their kid up on stage to like do something at some point, sing or play on something.
Yeah, maybe.
Mhm.
I mean, I mean, so I was. It was last, not the one that just passed, but it was the one before that when Gorilla Biscuits played. I played harmonica when I was 11. So,
Oh, okay.
like, cause sometime in Start Today, the harmonica part.
Hmm.
Yeah, they pulled me up, and because I did it once before in Baltimore, they pulled me up. I actually have a few. I'm not gonna play them because you can't hear them, but I have a few harmonicas with me right now.
Oh, there you go.
I just
Well,
keep them
good.
at my
I'm glad
desk.
you're
They're fun.
diversifying your musical palette.
Yeah, I where's my other one? I have there's one over there. I have 6 total harmonicas. This is my big harmonica. It's chromatic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
it has every single note. So yeah,
There you go.
fun. Bit crazy though. So this year was Fest 22. So did it
Mhm.
start? I guess it started 22 years ago then.
Well, we had to skip a year because of COVID.
Oh yeah. Okay.
We
So
didn't do we didn't do a live fest on during 2020. But yeah,
okay.
2020 2001 was when we did the first one.
Oh wow.
Mhm.
So how did it start?
I was living in Virginia and I moved here for a job in Gainesville. I'd played Gainesville a bunch in the 90s when my band would tour down here and play like the old hardback a lot. So when I was living in Virginia. I got a job offer to move to Gainesville, and it sounded great. I was still in college, so I dropped out of college, moved here to work at Fueled by Ramen when it was starting up, and I did that
Congratulations.
for like a year and a half, and then I kind of just got burned out real quick on it. And so I left there. And after about, a year of just kind of like working in restaurants and stuff, I kind of like, I was still booking shows for friends. I've never been like a promoter. I always booked shows to help my band, and help other bands, and help. And then when I moved to Gainesville, because I had a history of booking stuff, a lot of bands from Virginia, like Strike Anywhere, I did their first show on their first tour down here. Sam I Am, a bunch of bands, back then. And so kind of like between playing in bands for a long time, uh, booking for the college radio station when I was in Virginia, and then booking stuff here in Gainesville and working at Fuel Bar Ramen, I had like a pretty big network of friends. And so we decided with some friends here in Gainesville to throw a thing where we would invite all these people down to Gainesville. There was like 5 venues all within walking distance downtown, and we decided to do it. So the first year was really small. The internet really wasn't out, so you couldn't publicize things that way. So we just made like black and white flyers and gave them to bands, and bands would take it and put it out on their merch tables. But most of the people were from like Florida and Gainesville. I think we had like 500 people here, including the bands and all the volunteers. So it was really small. Um, and then we decided to do it again for the second year. And we did it 6 months later. We moved it to the fall. The first one was in the spring. And so
Oh,
then it
okay.
was just like it became a yearly thing until 2020. COVID
Sweet.
happened. So
S- To sort of okay, so you said you did it 6 months after the second one was the third one?
no, after the first one,
Oh, okay.
to the fall. So we moved it. It was like in the first one, I think was in like April. It was during spring break.
Okay.
The idea was always to try to do it when the college kids weren't here, because in 2000, uh, the college kids weren't as I don't know how to say this, weren't as accepting of punk rock. So my fear was to have a big, Southern University football town and then a bunch of punks invading to hang out and party. There might be some clashing. So I was like, well, let's make it to when there's nobody, the college kids wouldn't be here. So we did the first one spring break. But then we decided to move it to the fall and schedule it around, when they were going to be out of town for football stuff. Because I thought fall was a cooler thing, because then more people from like, we had friends from like Minneapolis and stuff like that, and Chicago, like Lawrence Arms and Dillinger Four, and there was bands like Cadillac Blindside and like the Stereo and stuff like that from those times. And we were like, when they came down in the fall to tour, they would like, the weather's so beautiful in Gainesville, and so that was kind of like a ding, like we could make this kind of like a fun destination, get out of the cold, come to Gainesville. Um, and so, yeah, we've always done it in October since then. Sometimes it trickles over into November, but early November, because of we used to line it up directly when Georgia and Florida football teams play each other, because they don't do it on their home towns. They do it in a neutral town, which is Jacksonville, which is an hour and a half away. But this year we actually did it when there was no game in town, and it worked out really well. We was a little apprehensive about it, but I thought it was great. I mean, seems like now like punk rock is just so mainstream in general with culture and everything. It's not like how it was in 2000. It wasn't like how it was in the 90s for sure. So it's not like as weird. You don't have like college like ding dongs trying to catcall people or make fun of them anymore. They're very accepting. They go to like pop punk emo nights and stuff now. So
Yeah.
no, it's just it's different.
I guess thanks Blink 182, Green Day, and My Chemical Romance.
Yeah, yeah, all that stuff. I mean, when I was in high school, I graduated in 1994. Leading up to that, we would get called all kinds of stuff in high school. Granted, that was in a small southern town in Virginia. Um, and then 1994 was the year kind of punk broke. Like Green Day put out Dookie, Offspring. Every punk rock band got signed in 1994 by a major label, pretty much.
They're not
So
really punk. They're not really punk, but that's when Weezer Blue album came out
yeah,
too.
exactly. All that kind of stuff became mainstream, and then the people that were calling us faggots in high school were then going like, "Hey man, so is your band playing this weekend?" And coming out to the shows.
Yeah.
So it was It's good in that realm, but I mean that's kind of always how, it's hard to say when people ask me like, well, what kind of festival is fest? And I'm like, well, it's punk, but I mean, punk is just such a big paintbrush. I think
Yeah.
fest there's a lot of diversity within what you call punk. Um, so there's a little bit for everybody.
Yeah. I mean, you could probably call Joyce Manor. I mean, yeah, you could call Joyce Manor punk, but you could also call Thought Control punk, and they're both like,
Yeah, I think punk is more of an attitude and a way you approach things than just a look or a musical style in a lot of ways.
yeah,
Hmm.
mm, yeah. It's just there's so much. It's just a lot of different like. It's yeah.
Yeah, I
There's
mean, like
so many.
we have like Whiskey and Company play, who's a Gainesville band, and they're like country, but they're like their lyrics and their attitude is punk. You know,
Yeah,
you have folk acoustic people playing from like overseas. It's really about your like what you're singing about in your content and your attitude is what you consider punk.
I mean, my. I mean, they both might have. They both might kind of be punk, but they're so much different. I like cursive. Like for example, I like cursive, and I like hate breed. Like
Yeah, 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 exactly. It's all different. So I kind of look at Fest as like not so much a punk festival, but more of a community that we've
yeah,
grown over the years and stuff. And so
yeah. I mean, it's yeah. We love fest. Like it's
good.
so fun. Also, the town is just really cool.
Yeah, Gainesville's really cool. It's changed a lot since, we first started Fest or from when I first started coming here. But we're still actively trying to make our community a lot better. Majority of the people, we have over 500 volunteers that help out with Fest. Either they're all from Gainesville or they used to volunteer for Fest and then moved away, and so they're allowed to volunteer still. Um, so it's like really like kind of like the whole town kind of comes together to really make Fest happen every year.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Um.
I like Gainesville. I like Gainesville too because it's small. You can walk everywhere.
mm,
There's a lot bigger cities out there that do things, um, and hence there's more people, so you can have bigger festivals. But there's something about the vibe of what we put on here that makes it, easy and fun and cool. You get to soak up not only just all the music, but you also get to soak up a lot of Gainesville at the same time.
Yeah. I went on those like one of those like electric scooter things for the first
Hmm.
time.
Okay, good thing you didn't get hurt.
Yeah, so
And then we realized it's illegal.
yeah,
So I made
it's
him
so
stop.
apparently wait, are you supposed to be 16?
18,
18. Okay.
I think.
We didn't see the thing that said you have to be 18 or older to ride this. And we were like, "Oh shoot." But it was fun while I was able to use it. So,
Yeah, I think you probably wouldn't get in trouble unless you did something dumb on it. So,
yeah. They probably
And I
just
was walking behind you.
yeah.
okay.
He'd have to come back. He'd fly ahead and then come back to me.
There you go. Next time you just get a harness and a rope, and mom gets towed
Give me a
behind on the
skateboard.
Yeah,
skateboard.
get a skateboard.
Yeah, great idea.
Yep. You said you were in a band. What band
Mhm.
were you in?
In the 90s, I was in a band called Swank.
Okay.
And we played a lot with Less Than Jake and Hot Water Music and um, Thomas from Strike Anywhere's old band Inquisition, um, and stuff
Oh,
like that.
he
And like
gave
we even played stuff with like Ass Suck and Suppression, and there wasn't as many bands back then, especially in the Southeast. So we
I
all
have
kind of helped each other out with doing shows and trading shows, and so most of the punk shows would have like four or five, sometimes more bands on them, but
yeah.
every band kind of sounded different. Our
Mm.
band was really kind of different. We had horns, but we weren't necessarily ska. Like we had weird like emo hard breakdowns, and we had stuff that kind of sounded like Fugazi, and then we'd have stuff that sounded kind of like Less Than Jake and stuff that sounded, it was all over the place because nobody was like, we didn't have like older siblings or cousins or older punks around us to say like, hey, check this out or this. So we all just kind of like soaked up as much as we could musically, and just like, we didn't give a shit. We're just like, we're gonna put this weird part in here and this weird part and do this, and we like Mr. Bungle, and then we like, Fugazi, and then we like They Might Be Giants and stuff. So it was fun, and I think because of that we kind of stood out, and plus we were really good people, so people kind of um always helped us out, and we did the same up in Roanoke. We really helped. It was a very small punk scene there, and then we did a lot in Richmond too.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like how I knew Gainesville. The first time we came and played, Chuck from Hot Water came and was like, "Hey, I like your band. Check out our demo tape." And so then we did a show for them in Richmond. I mean, Richmond and Roanoke, and then they would do the same here. Um, it was more. It was harder to book stuff back then because you had to like make phone calls to people and then mail your tape or your demo, to people so they could do shows for you. But there was resource guides like Maximum Rock and Roll was a punk magazine that was out back then, and they had a guide they put out once a year called Book Your Own Fucking Life, and it was basically like, Gabe, you could write. What town do you live in?
Middletown, Delaware.
Okay, so you could say Middletown, Delaware, and you could write, your contact info in there, and you could say like, "Hey, we do shows on my front porch outside. It's 40 degrees. You're
I
gonna get
mean,
a pot of, you're gonna get a pot of spaghetti, and we're gonna take up a collection, and bands get all the money from the door." And so like people would put, it was almost like a classified ad in there, and people would put all this stuff in there, and so we would sit in lunch and just look through this and with a map, like a real map, and map out like, okay, well we can sounds like a cool person in this town, and there's a cool person in this town, and a cool person in this town, and we try to figure out like a 2-week tour,
Yeah.
with a beat up van, and then of course we had a listing and for Roanoke, and we said, we can do shows for you in Roanoke, Harrisonburg, Blacksburg, Richmond. Here's our band, and this is what do we do, and here's kind of like the
Yep.
deal we can do for people, and that weeded out a lot of things like booking agents calling about guarantees and stuff. But we did the shows for like we did a show for Good Riddance one time, back then, and Voodoo Glow Skulls, and Against All Authority, and Less Than Jake, Hot Water, all kinds of stuff like that. So it was fun, and we back then also like to help get bands out because there wasn't the internet and wasn't Spotify and stuff. A lot of record labels would put out compilation CDs or compilation LPs. And so that was a cool way to get to know bands and stuff like that too. And for, fans to get to know more bands. And so if
Yeah.
we were on CDs with like those other bands, they would be selling them in here in Gainesville, and we'd be selling them up in Roanoke. So it helped get things out. And a lot of bands also would take out distros with them. So like if we played with like Hot Water, and we would be like, "Hey, we have our 7-inch," and they'd be like, "Oh, we just put out 7-inch too." We would like take 10 of theirs, and they would take 10 of ours. And so the more you play in a band, the more other band stuff you collect. And so you would kind of have like a little mini distro record store that you would set up in towns too. And so it helped because, back then, in 92, there wasn't a lot of punk record stores. So the shows were more of a big opportunity for the kids that were into punk, especially in small towns like where we lived. Like we would go to like Biloxi, Mississippi, and there would be like you'd play in this little thing called a Little House, and it was literally a trailer next to this kid Lee's house, and his parents were like, "Hey, Lee, you can do shows, and bands can stay in our house," and but they played this gutted out trailer next door. Um, cool stuff like that. Everybody was doing shows wherever they could be allowed to. And it was interesting back then. It was really fun, and it wasn't as business as it is now. I feel like a lot of small bands feel like they have to have like a booking agent, or they have to have a manager, or they have to do this kind of stuff to make it, or a record label. And it's really kind of like it's the pressure, the peer pressure almost. And I feel like I always try to tell people that, like, the way you handle your band and the way you handle yourself goes way further than anything else.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think we would ever do shows on our front porch other than just us playing at my birthday party.
I
But
just assumed it was front porch because you said it was outside. So.
well, no, it is on our front porch, but I don't think we would ever do
Like a real show.
I don't
It's a
think
birthday party show.
yeah, it's just
Yeah.
it's just for our birthday party to my friends.
Yeah, I was just kind of saying as an example, like
Yeah, I know.
you would list wherever it was. When I first started doing it, my mom had a daycare center in our basement, and so we were doing shows in that basement.
The
So you're playing a daycare.
Yeah.
We would go down to Danville, Virginia, which is very South Virginia, and we would play a place that was like a Danville's version of like Chuck E. Cheese. and you'd play in front of the ball pits. It was awesome. You know?
Um, that spaghetti thing you said, that's actually pretty accurate because we are Italian. So
Mhm. Well,
yeah,
I mean, that was kind of the thing. And when you put on shows for bands, you would try to do like a big potluck type thing. And sometimes people would bring other things, but it was kind of the standard easy thing to make back then that was vegetarian was a big pot of spaghetti. But that's a part of the thing. You always took care of people when they stayed. You let them stay at your house. You made them food and stuff. And the flip side is like the ethics and the hospitality goes a long way. But the flip side was as if you stay at somebody's house, you don't treat it like it's a hotel. You do nice things. You wash your dishes. You leave nice package for your hosts when you leave, like a record and a shirt, a nice thank you note. You don't try to like wear out your welcome in a lot of ways. So that little bit
yeah.
of grace goes a long way. Yeah.
hmm I was gonna say
We have bands stay here a lot.
no. Wait, what were you just talking about? It was bands playing. Oh no, it was the yeah. So I booked like my yeah. I booked World of Chaos's like first weekend tour.
Okay.
Um, yeah. So they're all it's just 3 shows in Pennsylvania.
It's next weekend.
Yeah, it's next weekend. York State College and Lansdale. So yeah, it's 3-day weekend tour. Very excited.
Yeah, that's big, big stuff. I mean, it's
Yeah,
fun. It's fun when you
we've
get to go back to school and everybody's like, well, what'd you do this weekend? You're like, I went
yeah,
on tour.
yeah. I mean, I'm homeschooled, but I can.
Your drummer can go back to school.
Yeah, I mean, so okay, so we have 4 members of the band. 2 of us are homeschooled. 2 of us go to school. Yeah,
Cool.
me and the bassists are the homeschool ones. So yeah, yeah, we've never played like shows back to back like that. I think uh, our closest like thing of shows were like 9 days apart. One of them was in Pennsylvania, one of them was in New Jersey. So yeah, very excited for that.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity. You'll look back on it your whole life, and those are great times. So soak it up, take pictures, you know, make a journal. It's fun. Wish I would have done more of that,
Yeah,
back in those days.
I've like gone on like weekends and little tours like that with Thought Control, but never before with World of Chaos. So yeah, um,
Yeah. Who's driving?
Me.
my mom, because yeah, none of us can drive. None of us can drive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the closest our drummer and bassist are 15, so
Maybe
next
Next
next.
year.
maybe if you
Yeah.
can't make
Yeah.
Well, mom's great roadie, so
yeah,
it's good.
definitely.
Make sure you tip her out at the end of the tour.
Yep. Just we'll try to pay for gas maybe.
Yeah, sure.
If we get paid for the shows, that is, because we might not.
Just
Uh,
double the chores next week.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think I like World of Chaos shows more because it's like my band. Like I wrote a lot of the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't written or recorded anything with Dot Control. Like I just play it live. It's just like to me just cooler because I wrote the stuff. But they're both definitely fun. Both awesome.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Also speaking of World of Chaos, I think I said it at Fest. I plan on sending you the demo
Okay.
in like January, I think you said.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
January is usually when I start booking. Um, Hopefully. It all
Yeah.
depends on, I don't have anybody over me to tell me when to start. So when I start
Yeah.
feeling it, if I'm not feeling it, I probably won't start. But usually by then I've had enough of a break. It just depends, how life, rolls the dice before here and now because it's nice to start early.
Mhm.
Gives me time to, do other things and plan the other aspects of Fest. But at
Yeah.
the same time, it's good to start early because it gives bands time to plan tours and stuff like that. But I definitely like had booking agents and bands emailing me weekend of Fest, and it was just like, no, I'm just
Yeah.
let me put one to bed before you make me rise one up out of the crypt right now. But I look forward to it. Definitely it's fun, booking it. It really is. It really is.
Yeah.
So I look forward to hearing new bands like yours. I look forward to trying to like curate some old fun buds to come back. That's kind of always fun for me too, because as life goes on, when you stop touring and less bands come through Gainesville now, so it's like fest time. Sometimes the only time I get to see some of my old friends. So we'll see.
Yeah.
I got some coals in the fire. We'll just see if booking agents will play ball. So
Cool.
yeah.
So how many like I mean just like a guess because you probably don't have an exact number. How many band submissions do you get every year?
No idea. When we first started it, bands actually really submitted. They would actually mail us packages. And it
Oh,
was when I was working at No Idea Records. And so we would work all day and then go eat dinner. And then at night, my buddy Cam, who worked there with me, and I would just sit in our office and drink and open up packages, read the letters, put a CD on or a tape on or a record on. And then we had a yes, no, maybe pile. Um, that's kind of how we did it. It took a lot longer, but those days were fun too, man. It was a lot of fun doing those. He's now a public defender out in Portland, and sometimes
oh
he
wow.
has to be a judge, so it's kind of
Wow.
fun. Yeah.
We got a couple more questions, then we'll let you go. I think you said when it started you had to like pick up a package in an hour, so it's been like
Child.
I got
oh
to pick up my boy. Yeah, he's in preschool. He's 2.5.
oh I thought you said you had to go somewhere to pick up a package or something.
No, packages come to your house.
Well, I mean sometimes I know, but like I mean we've gone to like some they
Yeah,
can
sure.
like drop them off at like certain stores and it's cheaper sometimes. We've done that
Yeah,
before.
yeah, but I got to pick up my boy. He goes
Okay.
goes to preschool, which
Yeah.
is nice.
That's more important than picking up a package. But
The most
Yeah,
important package.
yeah. I mean, he might have a
you know,
package for me. Who knows?
so what was the first punk show you would or hardcore metal, whatever, show you attended and how old were you?
It was actually more metal than it was punk. I mean, like small band type technical thing. Yeah, it was. I mean, I went to shows. There was a thing called the Roanoke Civic Center. It's like everybody has like the big place. And when I was in middle school, my mom would let us go see some stuff, and so she would drop my buddy Chad and Jason off with me, and so I saw stuff like ZZ Top and Black Crows, and I saw um, uh, gosh, I can't think of who they're called now. It'll come to me in a minute. But like later on, we got into skateboarding, and we would get dropped off on like Williamson Road, which is like the main stretch in Roanoke, and we would just skate all day. And we saw flyers on a pole, and it looked like punk, and it said like Sweat Fest at this place that was near the Civic Center. And the place is, I'm blanking on the name of it right now. I think it was called Scooches, and it was like a biker bar. And so we
Wow.
went back to my mom. We're like, hey, they're doing this thing. We didn't know any of the bands, but it had like a skeleton, probably with a mohawk. It was probably like a rip off of the Exploited logo. It might even been the Exploited logo. But we were like, we want to go. We didn't know any of the bands or anything. It was probably like $5. And she goes, well, Scooches is kind of like a rough place. But she goes, but if they're doing it like a daytime matinee, it should be fine. So she dropped us off there, and we went, and it was just a bunch of like thrash metal bands. Probably a lot of them were doing covers, but we had a blast. I think the band that played last, they were called like Private Property, and they closed with like Inner Sandman. But for us, it was just great. We just like moshed, and the circle pitting was really big in Roanoke back in the 90s. And so
Yeah.
we were like scared to death, like to run around in circles. But from that experience, we met a lot of people, and and then that's kind of like was like kind of like at the time we were kind of starting a band, but then we were like, oh, we could probably play a show that's not like somebody's birthday party in their backyard. No offense to yours, but literally that's the only shows we would really get. So
Yeah.
we met like a guy named Jamie Ingrassia, and he was in a band called Integration, and they were kind of like Abolition style records, like screamy, metally stuff. And so Jamie was like, yeah, I do shows. Here's flyers. And so we would like go out to shows. And then finally he was like, oh, you're in a band. And so we got our first show. But like those early days, that was kind of like my first like real, I guess, punk shows. But I had been listening to like, we used to listen to stuff that was on skate videos, and that's how we knew about a lot of bands. 120 Minutes was a show on MTV. It would come on Sunday nights, like midnight, and we would like set our VCRs to record. And so we found out about bands, punk bands through that. Thrasher magazine would have ads in there. But from that, we found out like, oh, there's a record store called the Record Exchange, and we can go there. And there was a guy there. The first 7-inch I ever bought was a face-to-face 7-inch.
Oh, nice. Wow.
It was the No Authority 7-inch, and that was because the guy like behind the counter was like, "Oh, you like punk? Here, check this out." I still have it, so it's cool. So maybe someday face to face will play, and I'll be like, "You want to sign my record?" you know,
Yeah.
which probably will happen. I think face to face wants to play this year, so it'll be kind of fun.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, I mean, it's just those days. But it was like I didn't see a lot of big named bands. It was like a lot of the early punk stuff we saw were bands from Virginia. A lot of times, like in my mind, Avail was like the biggest thing. Avail and Fugazi. We got the opportunity to see both of them a lot, more so Avail. And they were a big influence, not only like musically, but also like Tim was really awesome to put us under his wing and be like, this is kind of how you should do your band. This is how you treat people. Like I was talking earlier about when you stay at people's houses and stuff like that. All that was like Tim Berry influence and stuff. So yeah, I mean that's kind of like my thing. Like back then, I think now like a lot of you get to see shows all the time, which is great. But there's bands constantly playing. There's so many. But back then to see like a big band, I think the first like outside of going to Richmond, the first big band we saw, and it wasn't even big. It was probably the room was probably like 250 capacity, but like on the way to our college orientation, we stopped. We drove 3 hours out of the way to go to Virginia Beach to go see Offspring and NoFX play. And that was like a big deal for us, And then we drove overnight, slept in the parking lot, and went to our college orientation the next morning, stinking. Oh, and Rancid played that show too. That was like when Rancid was, but that was like the second time I'd seen Rancid because Rancid and Avail did a split together, and Avail did shows for Rancid when they first were starting out.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so it wasn't like nobody came to Roanoke unless we booked them or Jamie booked them, and it wasn't like they weren't like big name bands. I can name probably every band that played Roanoke, and outside of Avail and the one time Good Riddance played, you probably wouldn't know many of them. Well, I guess less than Jake and Hot Water and stuff, but
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you tell your 13-year-old self anything at all, what would you tell him?
Just enjoy it, man. You can't beat the times you're gonna have. And those times were amazing. They seem hard and they seem like a struggle, but it was wonderful, and it was a great experience that not a lot of people get to have. And it made me kind of the person I am today. So I hope that my boy gets to have somewhat of an experience like that growing up, but whatever he chooses to do is what his life will unveil. But yeah, and like I said too, take more pictures and print them. Don't just leave them digitally. I look back at like photo albums I have from those times, and I wish I had like 10 of them instead of 2. There's just really good times, document it.
Nice. I wonder if we have a picture of us from every show.
No.
Oh, dang.
But even like just like the times, like riding around, goofing off, stopping in stores, like those are the things. The guys that you're in a band with now, you probably might not know. 20 years from now, you might not have a connection with them, and so that's kind of a thing. Soak it up and enjoy it.
Well, anything to add before we wrap it up?
No, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. Good luck on the road. Have fun, and
Awesome.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
No worries.
Yeah. Wait, so my birthday was 1 month ago. So I mean, so tomorrow.
It's a very late party.
Yes, I mean the party is the exact day of my brother's birthday, because it's like the only day we could do on a weekend for the party.
Mm-hmm.
But
so it's a combo party.
Yeah, it's just both of our parties combined.
It's really late for you. Anyway,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So yeah, okay. thanks to Tony for joining me today. And
No
thanks
worries.
and thanks to all you for watching and listening. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow me on Spotify and other streaming platforms. Until next week, bye.
See you guys.